Most valuable players at Lowe's Motor Speedway this week, the track workers, squeegees and jet dryers, umbrellas, plenty of rain. It was a soggy Coca-Cola 600. We'll have all the highlights coming up next on NASCAR Now. Hello, everyone, and welcome to NASCAR Now. I'm Mike Massaro, along with Boris Said, Randy LaJoy, and Ricky Craven. Thanks for being with us on this Memorial Day, and an interesting race, to say the least, guys, out in Lowe's Motor Speedway. What's it like waiting out rain delay after rain delay after rain delay?
It's great if you're David Reutimann.
It can be painful. You know, nothing about what we saw today resembled what was going to happen on Sunday night, right? They were all prepared to run under the lights, 6, 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night, with the track getting cooler, speeds running up faster. Today, it was like, run, take a break, and it was during the daytime.
Yeah, but the drivers, it's not hard for the drivers. They just go back to their fancy motorhomes, they kick their heels up and watch TV. But these poor fans sat around for 2 days and they endured rain after rain after rainstorm. So for the fans, it's tough.
Deserve a lot of credit.
Should probably give them a trophy as well. Hey, let's take a look at the highlights, shall we, and see how we got to the finish. Well, it was postponed till Monday because of rain. Ryan Newman, he was your pole sitter. He would have liked to start on the outside of the front row, but once we finally do get into racing, a little bit of contact here. Kevin Harvick getting into the side of Sam Hornish Jr., and that would have its consequences. He would cut down a right front tire, eventually get into the wall. Harvick comes to pit road, and that would severely impact his day. He would go a lap down. Not a good moment for Kevin Harvick, to say the least. Ryan Newman has his own problems on pit road. Decent stop, but he pulls away. Not all the lug nuts are tight, and that would certainly hurt his chances of victory on the day. Meanwhile, the race off pit road, Jimmy Johnson beats Kyle Busch, and he'll take the lead after taking just right side tires, Ricky.
Yeah. The advantage for the driver when you're this loose is that you don't have to call in to tell your crew chief you're struggling. You can see it.
And those right side tires had Jimmy paying a price as he slid back. And here's what we saw a lot of on Monday as the rain comes and the cars are parked for nearly an hour. But there's some words spoken on pit road during one of the rain delays, and we'll get to that in just a minute. But lap 98, we go back to green flag racing, and well, this had nothing to do with the rain. Dale Jr. just struggling, Boris.
Now, this is severely loose, and that's the definition of sawing at the wheel, and you don't want to have a car like that at Charlotte.
No, not at all. Lap 120, back to green flag racing, and Brian Vickers comes to life, Brandon.
There he is. He's up there rim riding, and he was fast. He was even fast on the bottom of the racetrack.
Yeah, and on the bottom of the racetrack, that's where he takes the lead as he bypasses Kyle Busch. Big moment there for Red Bull Racing as Brian Vickers looked pretty strong. Lap 165, a very touching moment. 3 p.m. hit, President Obama calling for all Americans to pay tribute to the heroes who have defended our country over the years with a moment of silence, a touching moment.
Took me back about a year ago when Randy and I both visited the troops in Afghanistan.
Not only Afghanistan, all the men and women all across this country that keep us safe, land and sea, they are huge NASCAR fans.
We get back to racing, and there's some racing on pit road. Kyle Busch wins the race off of pit road and takes the lead. Then, saw it again. Lap 177, rain as the cars are covered, and here's where things get interesting as Tony Stewart has some words for one of David Reutimann's crew members. Things get a little bit heated on pit road.
You know, when it comes down to the end and it's time to go race, you race hard, but you know, there's 43 of us out here and we all have to work together, and he's having a hard time understanding that, I think. I mean, he says he gets it, but if he gets it, he's holding up a whole line of cars every time they get to him. It just gets frustrating. Then he's got a bald crew guy down there that wants to jump up there and be Billy Bad Butt. Maybe he needs to ride in there with him since they both seem to have it all figured out together.
Oh, the frustration of sitting out a rain delay. There he is. There's Billy Bad Butt right there. That's the guy he was talking about. Lap 222, critical moment. Rain coming, decision time for the leaders. Kyle Busch leads the leaders down pit road. They'll pit. Meanwhile, David Reutimann gambles, stays out. And what a gamble it would be. David Reutimann outlasts Mother Nature. And when this race was finally called, and it would be called, he was the man, awarded the victory, beating back Newman, Robbie Gordon, and Carl Edwards. And David Reutimann Wow, what a win. Becoming the 6th driver to score his first Cup victory in the 600-mile race. Casey Mears did it 2 years ago, and the other drivers are Matt Kenseth, Bobby Labonte, Jeff Gordon, and David Pearson. Let's hear from the winner of the 600.
What are you going to say? I mean, it certainly wasn't the prettiest win, but, you know, somebody's got to win these things. And Rodney Childers made a great call, told me to stay out, said we need to come in and work on this thing to make it as good as we need to anyway, and we're probably going to lose some positions on pit road, so let's just stay out here and take a gamble. And I got to thank Aaron's, we've got Lowe's Foods on here, we got to thank Sprint, and most of all the fans for hanging out here all day long, and they've been troopers here. And feels really good. You don't envision, when you envision yourself winning your first Sprint Cup race, you know, you envision it a little bit different, but man, it's so hard to win these deals, so we just take them any way we can get them.
He envisioned it a little bit different, but Boris, is it just as sweet?
Just as sweet. I mean, he gets to take the trophy home. Some say it's just luck, but he's put himself in this position all year long running in the top 5, so I don't really think it was just luck. It was a good call. Maybe it was Billy Badbutt that did it.
They had it all figured out.
Yeah, you have no idea what Triple B was telling these guys, but I agree with you. Most of the competitors recognize that David Reutimann has been fast all year. For that, he deserves to win. But, you know, watch the momentum from here. This always has a carryover effect, doesn't it, guys?
You know what? That's one thing. Not only the carryover effect, but, you know, David Reutimann did this the hard way. He started in late models down Florida. He's watched his dad win thousands of races. It's a racing family. He's dreamed about this moment. He's just happy. You know, his next one's probably gonna be even better.
One can only imagine. I mean, this rain delay lasted well over an hour. What do you think was going through David Reutimann's mind as he sat there as the rain fell, knowing that if it continued to rain, he'd get that final victory, or that victory?
He was thinking what you and I were thinking. It was pretty easy to understand. He wanted it to rain. He wanted it to rain really, really hard. And, you know, again, at the end of the day, anybody that's watched David Reutimann race over the last half-dozen years understands that he's a quality racer that does it the right way, and I'm really happy for him.
He was already spending that money. He's got it all figured out.
I thought he was kind of stupid during that rain delay. He was the only guy out there standing in the rain without an umbrella. I mean, doesn't his father teach him anything?
Do you tell me you're not superstitious? Tell me you're not superstitious.
I would have been standing out there in the rain all night long if that's what they could win.
Have any of you guys been in that situation?
In the rain, we've all probably have stole a race.
Yeah.
We've probably given more away than we've stolen, but we've all been a recipient of a race that, you know what, it might have not been our day, but at the end of the day, they're writing us a check, and we're going to cash that sucker.
Interesting word you used, stole a race. Did David steal a race?
No, he didn't steal a race, but I think who got gypped this weekend were the fans. I mean, the fans were expecting to see the longest, toughest race in NASCAR, and this week they only got a 360-mile race, so Mother Nature took that one from us this week.
Well, folks, we're going to take you now live to the infield media center at the Lowe's Motor Speedway, where some of the top finishers from Monday are speaking now.
I can't remember when it was, but the guys are doing a good job with Tony Gibson and leading the group, and obviously everybody at Stewart Haas. And same things I've always said: you just put ourselves in the right position at the right time, and we'll get our win. But you know, I'm just happy to be. You know, you can I guess kind of forget the whole jumping ship. That's in the past. We're talking about the present and the future, and I'm happy to be doing what I'm doing, and I look forward to Dover.
And for me, you know, obviously this is a momentum builder for us. I think, you know, we've had some decent runs. We finished 15th at Richmond a couple weeks ago. Unfortunately, we got caught out early at Darlington. But, you know, how you say it, success breeds success, and I think this will only help us. We've been focusing really hard on our race cars, and we've got there's another clean race car that we get to bring home, so that'll help us as far as building up ammunition to go to the racetrack with.
Anything else in the press box? Carrie, we are clear upstairs.
Okay, we'll come back downstairs for a couple more. Go ahead, Lee.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. For Robbie, you know, this place has some wacky finishes, and there have been a lot of people that you would just not expect to win races. But taking that one step further, how important is it to our fans to bring out new fans when you do have a Reutimann winning a race that people may not be so familiar, so he can tell his story to the public? You know, for you to finish third when we haven't seen you up in the top 5 for a couple of years, you know, how important is it to the success of your team going forward?
Well, it has been almost a year since we've been in the top 5, but we needed to figure out how to do that a little bit more. But, for Reutimann, I think for Toyota, it's a big win for him. So congrats to those guys. Like I said before, he did win today because of rain delay, but he's been running good all year. And I think if you watch how that program started, they were in the 30s, and they worked themselves into the 20s, and they worked themselves in the 10s. And if you put yourself in front of the door enough times when you run in the top 10, you're going to pull off one of these wins like today.
Stay upstairs, or I guess we're clear upstairs. Let's come back downstairs right here.
Mike Neff, frontstretch.com. For Joey, you were running third or fourth right there before you came in for that last pit stop on the caution. Was there any discussion with Zippy about staying out like the other guys did and seeing how the rain would pan out?
Yeah, I brought it up. I was like, is it, who's going to stay out? Who's going to take 2 tires and try to snooker all of us? And obviously, someone's going to try it. They were able to look at the weather. And in the position we were running fourth, and okay, you stay out, yeah, you win the race because we would have won because of the rain. But God forbid we went green again. We were going to go backwards pretty quick. And to have if you're sitting fourth, yeah, it's a big gamble to take. If you're sitting in a different spot, yeah, it's a little easier of a decision. So, it definitely is the right decision. I don't regret it a bit. It is what it is. So, you had to do that. We didn't really have an option there.
And we're starting to see some pretty good runs by young Joey Logano. We had a strong run in Darlington a few weeks ago. Now another top 10 here at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. What do you think this run does for his confidence?
I think the last few weekends have been really big for Joey Logano. When he started racing some cup races last year and the beginning of this year, he didn't look like he was the man for the job. He didn't look like he was ready. And I think it just took a little bit of time, and now he's proven to everybody why Joe Gibbs put him in that car. He's a racer.
One of the things I did watch Joey say, he learned something today. He had brake trouble, and when he had brake trouble, he had to lift early and float the thing in the corner and not use any brake because he was having some trouble. He learned something today, and that's just going to help him. He's done a wonderful job in the last month.
And he's only 19 years old. That's just unbelievable.
It was his birthday this week, in fact.
Yeah, he can take a lot away from this race, and I like the way he performed during the event. He drove under some guys when other guys didn't seem willing to do it or take the risk. He's come a long way in a month, and you just see his confidence building like an 18-year-old would, or 19.
That's right.
Where is he in the developmental stage?
In Charlotte.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah. Is he at the level where he can start competing for wins?
I don't care what anybody says. In my opinion, this guy is ahead of schedule. Why? Because the expectations were extremely high, probably unreasonable. If you look at what happened in the first few months, I think that's what people should have expected. Now, he's sort of flipped this 180 degrees, and he's running with guys like Stewart, Gordon, Jimmy Johnson, Matt Kenseth. Come on, this guy is ahead of schedule at this point. He's only 19 years old.
Plus, NASCAR threw a monkey wrench in his plans. When he was going to go cup racing this year, they had testing rules. He was going to be able to go out and test at every single racetrack. When NASCAR abolished all the testing, he's going to a lot of these tracks cold. So I think where he is now, Joe Gibbs has to be really happy where he is. He is ahead of schedule.
So what does he know now that he didn't know in February?
That he can do this. He can do this. He can compete with these guys. He could run up front with these guys. He was voted in. He's got a great fan support. He was voted into the All-Star race. And now he's running the top 5. He's beating these guys like, looks in the mirror and goes, there's guys behind me that shouldn't be. I'm beating these guys.
And the most difficult thing to teach a young driver, you don't have to be in a hurry. He's figured that out. I can see it on the track. He's relaxed.
And, of course, next week, as the series goes to Dover, it marks his 1-year anniversary, at least in the nationwide series. So it's interesting to see what Joey Logano has learned over the first 12 months of his big-time NASCAR career, if you will. Still plenty to come here on NASCAR Now. We'll go back to the Infield Media Center, and we'll hear what David Reutimann had to say about his victory. This is the 4th time that the 600 has been shortened due to rain. The last time this happened was in 2003 when Jimmy Johnson won after 414 of the 600 miles were completed. 2 other winners, Jeff Gordon in 1997 and Buddy Baker in 1968. And guys, it seemed to me like the most critical moment of this race was when it became decision time. Lap 222 thereabouts, when the rain started to fall. The leaders elected to hit pit road. David Reutimann decided, I'll stay out. That paid off. But if you are one of those guys running up front when the rain comes at that particular point in time, what do you do? We'll start with you, Ricky.
Well, I'm going to tell you why David Reutimann deserves to win this race more than anybody else is because all the guys, a dozen or so in front of him, chose to pit. None of these guys are willing to gamble. Why? Because of the consequence from points. You go back a week ago, none of those guys cared about points, and they all went for broke trying to get $1 million in a big trophy. I applaud David Reutimann and his team. Everybody knew the circumstances with the weather. They laid it on the line, and they were rewarded for it.
You know what? Not only that, I mean, you got to look at his point situation now. He jumped himself all the way up to 13th. He was in the top 12 earlier. He fell out. Now he's been back up front. You better look out. These guys are coming.
But as a driver, I don't want to make that decision. I'm leaving that for my crew chief. So you know, there were the crew chiefs were looking at the radar, looking at the laptop, and they were rolling the dice. Some went with tires, some went with 2, some went with 4, and some stayed out. So, you know, you could easily be the GOAT or the hero. You never know. It's 50-50 there.
I got to be honest with you guys. When that happened, I'm scratching my head. I mean, you're past the halfway point. You know the race is official. You've looked at the radar all day long. You know there's a real good chance this race is over. You still got enough fuel to go another 4 or 5 laps. Why stop?
I don't know, because one thing I heard that I just love and I appreciate is Joey Logano said, yes, I asked, are we going to stay out? That is from a driver who had never won a Sprint Cup Series race, right? And that's a different mentality than guys who have won enough and maybe lose that little bit of edge about, man, I want to win that bad, you know?
But a lot of those guys were 10 or 15 laps away from their window. So all race long, it's been raining and not raining. They wanted to go out there. They needed the fuel. They didn't want to gamble on having to pit under green.
They needed the points.
They needed the points.
That's the bottom line.
All right, I want to change subjects here a little bit. I mean, and I'm sure everybody out there in TV land, this was one of the moments you'll be talking about at the water cooler this week. The incident during the red flag between Tony Stewart and one of David Reutimann's crew members. What did you guys make of that?
Hey, Tony Stewart's back. He had some fire in his gun. He wasn't the nice, smiley Tony Stewart. He was mad, you know, and he wanted to tell David, hey, David, this is a long event. And David's like, no, it ain't. It's going to rain out. So David might have known something that, hey, it's going to be a short event. I'm not going to let anybody pass me. I'm going to keep my ground and keep racing. Guys, you want to pass me? You're going to have to work for it.
I'm sorry, Randy, but Tony's been back all year.
He didn't go anyplace.
I think every one of us can recognize that or feel for that situation. When you catch a guy quickly and you double up and you run 3-4 laps side by side and the guys behind you catch you, it drives you crazy, and that's what he's speaking to. And you know, it sort of plays over into this, but not really. Tony Stewart has some authority as a 2-time champion, and I think he deserved to share that with a young driver.
Yeah, I want you guys to elaborate a little bit on that. Is it possible to be racing too hard, too early? That's basically what Tony said.
It could be. But, I mean, this also shows the passion of a crew member. I mean, this crew guy says, hey, he's my driver. Get out of his face. Get your own pit. I mean, that's why these race teams are so darn good. Everything is such a team sport. That guy says, hey, go get in your own car. Leave our guy alone. We want to win this race.
I disagree, though. It's not like Tony Stewart was pushing the guy around. He wanted to have a conversation with David Reutimann. He might have been bossing him around a little bit because he deserves it. He is the authority guy there. But the crew guy should have stayed out of it, let those 2 guys handle it. David Reutimann's a big boy, and he can handle Tony Stewart.
You mean to tell me you don't like it when your crew guys are backing you up? They have your back?
Well, it depends who's coming after me. If it's Frankie Stoddard, I don't need any help. But if it's a big guy, I want the help.
I hope Frankie's watching and he saw that. But definitely some interesting moments. Plenty more to talk about. We'll leave you with a shot of the media center. See those empty seats? Well, David Reutimann's going to be filling one of them. I think Michael Waltrip will probably be there too. We'll hear from him. Let's take a look at some highlights from the Nationwide Series race Saturday night at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. And well, rain was a factor there as well. We'll tell you all about it. Kyle Busch, though, one of the strongest cars on the racetrack most of the night. He'll flash on by and take the lead where he sat most of the evening. Deep in the race here, and more Kyle Busch trying to hold off Carl Edwards. Edwards to the bottom of the racetrack, and Busch to the high side. Again, it's Busch, but this time trying to hold off the Vic. Ryan Vickers to the outside. He had a really strong race car. Comes down pit road to make some adjustments there. So does Kyle Busch. As the race off pit road ensues, there's a problem on the racetrack. The 81 car bringing out the caution. Racing would resume at lap 163, and Brendan Gaughan battling Mike Bliss for the lead. Gaughan to the outside, he'll take over the lead. But at lap 166, Bliss would not be denied. He'll reassume the point just in time. The rain began to fall. Mike Bliss, another rain-shortened winner at the Lowe's Motor Speedway this weekend. Here's a look at the Nationwide Series standings. Kyle Busch didn't get the victory he was hoping for in Charlotte, but he is still here, followed by Carl Edwards. back. And Jason Leffler's had a pretty strong year, but not where he wants to be. Still 173 markers behind Kyle Busch in the championship standings. And guys, plenty to talk about when it comes to the Nationwide Series race. First and foremost, Kyle Busch being denied once again despite having a dominant race car. What stood out for you? I think what stood out for me was the fact that in that first lap, when he started scratch on the field, started at the back of the field because of changing a motor. Well, I think it took him one lap to pass, what, 19 cars?
A lot.
How impressed?
That's unbelievable. It doesn't surprise me, but to watch Kyle Busch in action like that, just going by everybody like he's shooting baby ducks in a pond, I mean, it's crazy.
It's never easy to lose a race, but when you lose a race because of circumstances, it's a little bit easier.
And what about Brian Vickers? Again, rim riding on the outside. Did a great job last night.
We all know a little bit more about Kyle Busch and his personality after what we've seen the last couple of years from him. What do you think is going through his head right now, having lost yet another race that was clearly, in his mind, winnable? And there's been several over the last month or two.
I think the difference between this year and a few years ago is that he understands the circumstances, he can manage it better, and he's going to keep his composure. He's going for the title, and he didn't hurt himself in that regard the other night.
I think he actually should feel good about it because last year he had all the good luck in the beginning of the season, and as soon as the chase happened, he had all the bad luck. So maybe he's getting all the bad luck out of the way now. And when the chase comes, he's going to win it.
You've heard him say all along that he wants to win a championship. He wants to win a nationwide championship for Joe Gibbs. That team has won one as an owner. He wants to get one as a driver, and he's just doing everything in his power to just spank everybody. He's already said he wants 200 wins. So he's better get going.
Now, is it fair to say that had the rain not come, Kyle would have been the one in victory lane? I mean, Brian Vickers looked pretty strong, too.
Yes, it's fair to say.
Thank you, Ricky.
I don't think so. I think Brian Vickers had the best car on the long run. It seemed like even at the end, he was 0.3 of a lap better. So I think he's the one that's really mad right now because he had a legitimate chance to win tonight.
I guess, we're doing a disservice to the actual race winner, Mike Bliss. He's another guy who, because of an engine change, had to start at the back of the field, came all the way to the front, and was the winner of this race. We should be giving him some credit, too, shouldn't we?
And James Finch. I mean, as a car owner, he won his first Cup race a few weeks ago at Talladega, and now he wins another nationwide race.
And that's a great gamble. That's a great gamble for a team, for a crew chief to say, hey, stay out. We got 5 laps to go. We're going to run this thing out of fuel if we have to. If something happens, we're going to catch a break. And they did. And they got it, and they're in victory lane.
He ran well enough to win this race. He's got some magic at Lowe's Motor Speedway, right? Having won there a few years ago.
Yeah, he went from the back to the top 5, and he ran in the top 5 all weekend, so it wasn't a lucky win.
No, it wasn't.
An impressive performance for him. An impressive performance for Rusty Wallace Incorporated as well, with Brendan Gaughan coming home second. He was pretty happy, but you have to wonder what would have happened if they resumed racing under green flag conditions. Coming up, we'll talk about the Monster Mile. Dope. Here's what the Sprint Cup Series standings look like after the race Monday at the Lowe's Motor Speedway. Jeff Gordon still your championship leader. Tony Stewart 44 points back, so Gordon does stretch out his lead a little bit. Kurt Busch 115 markers back in third, and, well, you can see the top 12 starting to take their shape. Mark Martin was looking for a little better finish in Lowe's Motor Speedway than what he got, but still within 300 points of your point leader, 294, 12th spot in the standings right now. Now we go back out to the Lowe's Motor Speedway where our intrepid lead reporter, Marty Smith, is standing by. And Marty, I know you've spoken with many of the drivers. The drivers in particular who decided to pit, what did they say?
Well, of course, they're frustrated. You look at the Kyle Busches and the Casey Canes of the world Kyle Busch dominated the race. And right before that last caution came out, I would say within 2 laps, Kane likely would have passed Kyle Busch. He was so fast on the high side. I did speak with both of those guys. Kyle Busch said, look, it's the weather. We can't do anything about it. We had to pit. We only had about 5 laps left of gas. So they didn't have enough fuel to go much further. So the 18 had no choice but to pit. And Casey Kane actually told me that he really hoped it would go back to green, of course, and he said, look, if those 3 guys, ultimately David Reutimann and Ryan Newman, and Robbie Gordon, who finished 1, 2, 3. That's about whom he was speaking. He said if those 3 guys finish 1, 2, 3 in this race from the back row, I don't think that's a very good Coca-Cola 600. So obviously those guys are frustrated. They have every right to be. Both had great race cars, and you know it's been so long since Casey Kane won a race, and it looked like today could be his day. Extremely frustrating for them both.
Yeah, I can imagine. How about on the other side of the coin? How about the guys who didn't pit? What'd they say?
Backflips. I mean, those guys are elated. They're elated. I mean, you know, David Reutimann didn't have that competitive a race car. Robbie Gordon, I talked to him right during that rain delay, and he told me, you know, it was really kind of a no-brainer. We were about a 20th place car. Why not chance it? Here he comes home third. Ryan Newman just told me in the media center, I just asked him a few moments ago about the decision to pit or not. Was there a decision for the 39 guys? And he said that they made the decision to come down, or they made a decision to stay out, and then right at the last minute, Tony Gibson, Ryan Newman's crew chief, said, pit, 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 the leaders are coming, and Ryan actually stayed out. He just decided to stay out. It ultimately earns him a second place finish. So there was some back and forth there with the 39 guys, and you know, they would have finished what, low 20s probably had he pitted. So it works out for those guys. They're all elated.
Now, Marty, on the set here, we're all kind of speculating as to what it was like for these drivers waiting out the rain delays. I know you. I know you were on pit road. You were talking to guys. What was it like as these guys were trying to, you know, wondering whether or not we're going to go back to green flag racing?
Can't you tell I was on pit road, man? Look at my hair.
I know.
Yeah, I spoke with all those guys about it actually, and it was interesting to me because my question was, how mind-numbing is it? How much does it keep you out of rhythm to start, stop, red flag, get out of your car? That whole choreography that they went through today, and they all were like, well, it's not that big a deal. David Reagan, I did speak with him about it, and he said it's a little bit annoying, but for the most part, none of them really paid much mind to it. Joey Logano said, you know, once I strap back in the race car, it's the same old thing. I get right back in my rhythm, and it's just not that big a deal. So I was actually kind of surprised by that because, you know, for us it's annoying. I'm sure it has to be annoying for those guys.
It has been a long, long day, I'm sure. Hey, go get a towel. Towel off.
I need a towel, Michael. I'm going to go get one. Thank you.
All right, Marty, we appreciate your help. Thank you very much. Well, coming up, we'll talk a little bit about Dover and its big one. Plenty of racing action to talk about coming up.
Crash. Oh, and nowhere for Tony Stewart to go. Oh, my gosh. Hamlin came flying in there.
It was just complete roadblock.
Once again, we're shown why it's called the Monster.
I had to just choose who I was going to hit.
They just keep wrecking over here.
Here he comes, looking for the checkered flag here in Delaware. He's been the man all afternoon, and he's going to finally come home and pick up a win.
Kyle Busch and Joe Gibbs Racing tame the Monster Mile.
And Kyle Busch was the winner at Dover last spring. Let's take a look at some of the other drivers' records there. Average finish, well, Carl Edwards has the best at 7.7, ahead of one of the all-time greats, David Pearson, at 8. That's his average finish, and well, he did it over 16 starts. And Bobby Allison, also another good average finish, 9.3. And well, contemporary drivers, well, Ryan Newman and Jimmy Johnson both have very solid average finishes as well. 10.5 for Newman and 11.1 for Johnson. Both those guys also have multiple victories at Dover. And welcome back to NASCAR Now, along with Boris Said, Randy LaJoy, and Ricky Craven. This is our roundtable recap of all the racing in Lowe's Motor Speedway, but we're now turning our attention to next week as we talk a little bit about Dover. And we saw in the video there, guys, that Talladega is not the only place that has the big one. Why is the big one always a problem? Well, maybe not always a problem, but potentially a problem at Dover.
You know, it's coming from Victory Lane. I've been to Victory Lane twice there, but I've also been involved in the big one twice there. You cannot, for some reason, it's like the throttle hangs up. You cannot slow your car down at Dover for some reason. The momentum, the grip, you see these guys coming in from way late. You just can't slow down.
Yeah, the momentum comes from the fact that when you launch down into the corner, when your car settles on all four springs, you go back to the throttle. Folks, that's before the middle of the corner. When these guys come launching up off the corner, they're up 160 miles an hour. Because of all the grip, Randy, they use a hard tire. It doesn't stop well. And, you know, you can't go inside, you can't go outside because there's a wall on both sides of you. So there's no escape route.
Is it like Talladega? I mean, Can you avoid it? I mean, Talladega, obviously, and Daytona in the same respect, you can't really avoid it. How about at Dover?
Well, I mean, there's just not a lot of room to avoid it. You know, there's no room. The straightaways are banked pretty good, and there's just not a lot of width there. So the cars are 3,500 pounds. They're kind of big.
The big difference is, of course, that you do decelerate. You know, Talladega, you run wide open all day. The difference being Dover, you decelerate. You can choose the middle lane, the high lane. But when you get a car crossed up like Elliott Sadler was, you have to make a decision. I'm going inside or outside, and because of the speed, you're going to get a piece of one wall or the other.
And that decision is a split-second decision. You know, you need to go left or right. So really, you know, it's just whatever your mind. You can't think about it. It's just whatever your natural instinct is.
I think that one of the coolest things this year we're going to look for at Dover is a brand new pit road. You know what? These guys have worked very hard. Pit road was always very narrow, very unsafe. They got a brand new pit road. I think we're going to see a lot of action, a lot better action on pit road.
Pit road was a game changer at Dover at times. I mean, it was so narrow. There was constantly altercations. Your location on pit road often made a difference as to who went to victory lane. Now, let's handicap the race itself. It seemed like there was a period of time that once you had a handle on Dover, it was tough to wrestle that away, but it's now an era of parity. We've seen 7 different winners in the last 7 races at Dover. Thinking back to the spring of last year, it was Kyle. Is Kyle still the guy?
I think you make a great point. This track changes almost like the old Charlotte used to. There was a time where you had to run the bottom to be fast. Then the groove opened up and you could run in the middle and get away with it and run well. It also comes down to the fact if you get a 10, 15, 25 lap run at the end because of a caution. There's so many circumstances here. One thing I do know about Dover, it rewards you being aggressive. The line, well, it means the difference between finishing and not. You go over that line, you're done. But you have to test your courage at Dover and mash the gas.
I like the way you put that. It rewards being aggressive and being courageous. That certainly, to me at least, describes Kyle Busch's driving style, does it not?
To answer your question, Kyle Busch is a factor everywhere, whether it's a road course, a super speedway, or a short track. I mean, right now, if he doesn't win, he thinks he's failed. So right now, he's the guy to beat.
You get these race cars, one thing we've seen about these new race cars is anytime somebody hits on something, man, they're going to check out, whether it was Greg Biffle or Kyle Busch. This racetrack, you guys are all over the place. You hit on something, that thing's going to hook the bottom. Martin Truex a couple of years ago got there and checked out. So whoever gets their car right, you better look out. They're going to be fast.
And it was Greg Biffle who got the car right in the fall. And if you looked at that highlight, you saw a couple of his teammates chasing him to the checkers. Is this another one of those racetracks where Roush seems to have the handle on it?
Well, Carl Edwards has probably the best average finish there in the mid-7s, I think. So they did last year, but this year you've seen things have changed. Last year they were the king of the mile-and-a-half. This year they've lost a little bit of that edge. So we're really not going to go till we see practice on Friday.
What's it take to be competitive on concrete? We've nicknamed Carl Edwards the concrete conqueror, if you will. I mean, he seems to be good at any concrete track there is. Is there something about that surface that helps drivers stand out more than others?
Just aggressiveness. I think you can be very aggressive with a concrete car. You got to have a right feel to have a concrete car because it gives you a different feel. Dover is not the same as it was when it was asphalt. But I've won 2 races there when it was concrete, and let me tell you something. You get aggressive, you get a nice feel for that race car. Obviously, Kyle Busch has it, Biffle has it, and so does Carl Edwards. So you better look out.
Now, the risk associated with what he just described is that with concrete, you do have more grip, but when you lose it, boy, you got to hold on because it does not give you that warning. It does not allow you to sneak up on that edge, Boris, you know, where the right rear is sliding out. So you get more grip, you can be more aggressive with the gas, but when it breaks loose, you're along for the ride.
We're going to give our audience a little bit of a warning. The warning being, we're going to go to break right now, but when we come back, we're planning to go to the Infield Media Center and hear from Monday's winner, David Reutimann, coming up. Michael Waltrip becomes the 3rd Sprint Cup owner to score his first Cup win in the 600-mile race at Charlotte. The other 2 times took place in 1983 when Neil Bonnet won for Raymock Enterprises and in 1960 when Joe Lee Johnson won for Paul McDuffie Racing. Well, Michael Waltrip Racing celebrating their win and talking about it now in the Media Center.
I'm still waiting for Mr. Helton to come down and say, hold up here for a second, guys. We've changed our minds. We're going to go do something different. We're going to go back and try and finish the deal tomorrow. So I've been avoiding him, I think, for that.
Crew Chief Rodney Childers, talk about that decision you made that ultimately led you to victory lane.
Like David said, I didn't even put much thought into it, to be honest with you. I told him, hey, we're running 14th, and to make the adjustments we need to make, we're going to lose 4 spots on pit road, and we're going to come out 18th. There's 24 cars on lead lap, and so we either take a chance on winning this deal or we restart 24th. So we stayed out, and you know, like David said, it seemed like it was never going to end standing out on pit road, and definitely wore my shoes out for sure. So it's just a cool deal. I've always wanted to win my first race here. It means a lot to me, this track, and you know, born and raised 30 minutes from here in Mooresville, and you know, I think when I was about 12 years old, I told my parents I would win my first race here, but at the time I thought it was going to be as a driver, but it all turned around to work out good, and just really proud of all the guys. You know, they've deserved this. We kind of gave a couple of them away this year, and you know, we've just worked hard as a team, and it's a lot of fun.
Well, we said NASCAR is a family sport, and at the far right we have father of David Reutimann, Buzzy Reutimann, and Dad, your thoughts about son here winning this race today?
Yeah, I tell you what, people, if you could heard our driver whining out there behind the wheel of that car, and I was sitting out there and Roddy said, stay out, and I said, oh no, he done made a mistake. We're going to get, if they restart this race, we're going to get killed out here. And but he complained a little bit about everything there, you know, too tight, too loose, pushing the front end, the car was going backwards, I'm getting run over out here and all that sort of stuff. But I got to hand it to Rodney, he didn't make the right call. But I tell you what, people, it's been a long road. It's taken us a long time to get here, and I'm afraid I'm going to wake up in the morning and find out I'm dreaming all of this. But it's a wow. Words can't describe how great a father would feel to see his son to win a race. That number 00 up on the top of the board. That's one of the greatest feelings in the world.
I will take questions now for this championship. Aaron's Dream Machine Toyota. Go ahead.
Lee Spencer, Fox Sports. For David, what'd your daddy say to you during the rain delay, and what has it meant to have Rodney, somebody you competed at in your earlier years, be your crew chief now? What has that meant to the team?
Well, I actually think Dad was probably as nervous as I was, because he kept coming over and asking me if I wanted anything to eat, if I wanted anything to drink. I was like, no, I don't want anything to eat. And he said, you should drink something. I was like, I'm fine. I don't need anything to drink. And he just, I think he was as nervous as I was about it. But we just talked, just like, I told Dad the same thing. I said, Dad, these things don't ever go our way. So, you know, I don't know why it should now. And it felt really good to do that. But, you know, and to have, you know, Rodney and I have raced against each other in different series before. And you know, nobody expected us to have any kind of success, I think, right off, because, you know, it takes time for a crew chief and a driver to gel. But we just brought Rodney in, and man, I mean, I like what he does, and he doesn't ever really get excited. I get excited. I get on there, and his standard reply is 10-4, man, we'll make it better. And so, you know, and that automatically calms you down, and I need that because I get hyper a lot of times, and it doesn't always benefit us. So I'm proud of the guys. I'm proud of you know, we had good pit stops today. We didn't have exactly the car we needed, but we were working on it to get it to that point, and you know, Rodney made a great call and got us to win. So that's what it comes down to.
Go ahead, Bob.
Bob Hockers, NASCAR scene. Michael, can you talk about why David is one of your drivers? He's not young. You've had to find sponsors for him every year.
Not that good looking.
Yeah, I mean, very few top 10s in the first 2 years. Why is he here?
We just couldn't find anybody else. He works for cheap. Don't ask a whole lot out of anybody, and so it just worked out for us. Well, I will now tell you the serious answer to that question. My brother started a truck team, and we wanted David to drive the truck. And he was our first choice, and if we could get him, that's who we wanted. He was successful at the truck. We moved him into the Nationwide car. He was successful there. And we knew the commitment that he has to racing. He is all in when it comes to racing a car. He was born and raised in the back of a hauler, chasing his dad all over the country, racing dirt cars and winning races. And so it's just a part of his DNA. It's who he is. And he was a guy that was easy sell for me to Aaron's because of how he handles himself and the way he races a car. And his first year, he clearly out in Cup. of the 3 cars in 07, he clearly outran the other 2. He was the fastest guy we had. 08, that was the case again. And so every race that he would run, every lap he would make, it proved to us that we made a good decision. I love David. He's a great person. And the reason why we were smart enough to pick up on him was because Joe Nemechek gave him a car to race a few years back. And I think you went to Memphis and sat on the pole in it or something, didn't you? First time I ever, I mean, I knew David Reutimann, but it was a nationwide car, and he just got in it and was fast. And so he, you know, what he did prior to coming to us with Joe, it just showed us that he had the ability to be a guy that could be special. And so we were real fortunate that I think David will tell you that it's been more of a family relationship for the Waltrips and the Reutemanns than owner-driver employment. We believe in him, we love him, and it started with Daryl. He certainly did a good job there, and everybody at Toyota appreciated the way he did things, and we were able to sell him into the sponsors as he progressed into the nationwide car and into the Cup car. But I will say that there was nothing. The best part of the whole day today was a couple things, but one was when his dad hugged him winning one of these races. I mean, that's incredible. Great feeling because of their history. And then for me, as an owner, to get to hug my driver, that was something that I dearly missed today with winning the Daytona 500. And Dale, I was waiting for him to come hurt me because he would have hugged me in a way that would have hurt. And you know, I kind of warned David. I said, I'm feeling pretty good about this hug I'm fixing to give you. So that hug was for David, and it was also sort of to make up for something that I missed out on when I won a race one day.
Go ahead, front row.
Mike Neff, frontstretch.com. Congratulations, David. I noticed during the 2 hours, 3 minutes, and 44 seconds of that last red flag that you stood out there on pit road, not eating, not drinking, not doing anything, that you never got an umbrella. Were you afraid that if you put an umbrella up, that was going to jinx something and cause this to go away?
No, I just knew leaning on the car was working at that given time, and so I figured I shouldn't change up my system any, you know. And Mike's like, "You're not going to leave, are you?" I said, "Mike, I said, if a tornado comes, hurricane, it doesn't matter. And lightning, I'm staying right where I'm at, and until the bitter end or until we go back green again." So yeah, I wasn't going to move. I don't know that. I just figured I was leaning on the car and it was still raining, so I'm just going to stay right where I'm at and just see what happens.
Go upstairs to the press box for a few questions. Go ahead.
Yes, this is Don Coble with Morris News Service, Florida Times Union. Rodney, were you frankly a little surprised that the 13 cars ahead of you, that none of them did the same thing?
I don't know. You know, once you get, I don't know, from about 12th to 25th, and that's when people really make a big gamble. And the weather had been so sporadic all day, you really couldn't tell what was going on. So, you know, the guys in front of us, they probably thought that we would end up going back green and finishing the deal out, and they had good enough track position that they didn't want to give it up either. So we were kind of in a spot that, like I said, you know, we were going to lose some spots, but it was a gamble that we were willing to take. And you know, like I said, I don't know what they were thinking, but I'm glad we did what we did.
Well, it'll go down in history as one of the feel-good moments of 2009. We'll wrap it all up when we come back here on NASCAR Now in just a minute. Between Sunday and Monday, the 600-mile race was delayed for several hours. Got to give NASCAR a little bit of credit, though. They've always said they'll do whatever it takes to get a race in its entirety, and you got to believe that's exactly what they did. Guys, people are going to be talking about this, and they're going to have one opinion or another. What did you think about the way NASCAR handled the situation on Monday?
I thought NASCAR did a fabulous job. I thought NASCAR handled the weather appropriately. I also thought the break at 3 o'clock was appropriate. Remember, we were supposed to race Sunday night. So recognizing all the people who have made sacrifice, and in some cases the ultimate sacrifice, on Memorial Day was perfect.
NASCAR has done such a great job all the time thinking about the fans, the competitors. They always put the fans and the competitors first. Of course, Mother Nature, they can't mess with Mother Nature. I think they got the right call today, and as they did Saturday night in the nationwide race. They can't mess with Mother Nature. You got guys with dominant race cars, and you guys gambled. 2 guys gambled, and 2 guys went to victory lane.
Yeah, you can't be mad at NASCAR. I mean, Mother Nature kind of dealt us the wrong hand. They cheated us out of a great 600-mile race. But how about those fans to stick around for 2 days in the soaking rain? Pretty amazing.
Yeah, they all need some sort of an award. But, Ricky, I think you touched on it. Certainly the thing that all of us are thinking about are the veterans out there and those folks who are heroes who have defended our country over the years. And that moment of silence, I don't know about you guys, but it certainly touched my heart.
I had goosebumps. I mean, it gave me goosebumps because we were there. Me and Ricky spent 15 days in Afghanistan. We've seen the folks fighting for our country, fighting for our freedom. Thank you very much.
And you just can't imagine the things you take for granted until you spend those 12 days like we did in that country.
Yep, you got to feel proud to be in the greatest country, America, and thanks for all our men and women in the armed forces that protect us.
No way really to truly show our gratitude to those folks out there who have served our country and have protected us here in the homeland. Thank you, all of you heroes, and certainly happy Memorial Day. We appreciate everyone tuning in to NASCAR Now. We return on Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. on ESPN2.